Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the HCCH, Asia Pacific Week 2023, and welcome to Hong Kong, China. It's such an honor to have all of you here today for this great event. And the conference will start shortly, so please switch your mobiles to silent or vibration mode. Thank you very much for your attendance. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm round of applause to welcome the Honorable John Casey Lee, the Chief Executive of the Hong Kong SAR of the People's Republic of China. It's such an honor to have you here with us, Mr. John Casey Lee. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please have a seat, Mr. John Lee. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the HCCH Asia Pacific Week 2023 and welcome to Hong Kong, China. It's such a great pleasure to have all of you here today on this very memorable occasion. My name is Emilia Sun. I'm very flattered and honored to be a host for this significant 4-day conference. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, as we gather here today, it's important to note that this year marks the 130th anniversary of the Hague Conference on Private International Law, HCCH. And this conference is one of the special events organized to celebrate this momentous milestone. The theme for this 4-day conference is access to justice and sustainable development, the impact of HCCH in an interconnected world. We are very grateful for the generous support of the Department of Justice of the Hong Kong SAR of the People's Republic of China and the Faculty of Law of the University of Hong Kong as a supporting organization. And we'd also like to extend a warm welcome to all of our guests who've traveled from near and far to be a part of this great event in Hong Kong. Thank you very much for joining us. So at the very beginning of today's conference, it's my great privilege to introduce to you our distinguished guests here with us today. 首先，我非常荣幸为各位介绍莅临会议现场的重要嘉宾。The Honorable John Casey Lee, the Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China. Welcome to the conference. Ms. Chen Yinghua, Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China. 中华人民共和国外交部部长助理华春莹女士。非常感谢您的到来。Mr. Yun Dongpan, Acting Commissioner, Office of the Commissioner of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China in the Hong Kong SAR. 中华人民共和国外交部驻香港特别行政区特派员公署署理特派员潘云东先生，感谢您。Mr. Xin Min Ma, Director General of the Department of Treaty and Law, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China. 中华人民共和国外交部条约法律司司长马新民先生。Mr. Paul Lam Tin Kok, Secretary for Justice of the Hong Kong SAR of the People's Republic of China. Welcome. Mr. Horace Chen Kuo-kwan, Deputy Secretary for Justice of the Hong Kong SAR of the People's Republic of China. Welcome. Professor Xiang Zhang, President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Hong Kong. Welcome. Dr. Christophe Bernasconi, Secretary General of the Hague Conference on Private International Law. Thank you for a great organization. And the Honorable Chief Justice Andrew Chang, Chief Justice of the Court of Final Appeal, Hong Kong SAR of the People's Republic of China. Thank you for coming. The Honorable Andrew Leung Kwan Yuen, GBM, GBS, JP, President of the Legislative Council of Hong Kong SAR of the People's Republic of China. Professor Hua Ling Fu, Dean of the Faculty of Law of the University of Hong Kong. Thank you for joining us. Dr. James Ding, Chair of the APAC Economic Committee, Law Officer, International Law of the Department of Justice of the Hong Kong SAR of the People's Republic of China. Thank you. Professor Jardine Go Escolar, Deputy Secretary General of the HCCH. Welcome. Professor Yun Zhao, representative of the HCCH, ROAP, Associate Dean of the Faculty of Law of the University of Hong Kong. Thank you again for joining us. So, ladies and gentlemen, to commence the conference, it is with great pleasure and honor that we invite the Honorable Mr. John Lee, Chief Executive of the Hong Kong SER, to deliver the welcome remarks. Welcome to stage.
Assistant Minister Hua Chunying, Acting Commissioner Pan Yuandong, Dr. Christophe Bernasconi, Secretary General, Chief Justice Andrew Cheung, President Andrew Leung, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you, distinguished speakers and guests from around the world, to Hong Kong. And I'm pleased to see that Dr. Bernasconi is back in Hong Kong again. The Secretary General was here last November for our annual Legal Week. I'm also pleased to welcome Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs Hua Chunying, who is here with us today. I'm grateful to the strong support that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs affords to Hong Kong in our cooperation and exchanges with the world. Today, we are gathered for this year's Asia-Pacific Week of the Hague Conference on Private International Law, or HCCH. This three-day gathering of legal and judicial leaders, academics, government officials, and other professionals, all deeply involved in law and its manifold areas, interest and promotion, marks the 130th anniversary of the HCCH. And where better than opening this week at the Cheung Yu Tong Tower, which houses the Faculty of Law of the University of Hong Kong. The Hong Kong U has just celebrated its 111th anniversary, and its Faculty of Law is the first and oldest law school in Hong Kong. Hong Kong U Law was ranked Hong Kong's always in the top rating. Hong Kong U Law was ranked Asia's second last year, a remarkable heritage, hosting this significant event of an organization with an eminent history. This Asia-Pacific Week is also the first in-person law conference of this magnitude since Hong Kong's resumption to normalcy earlier this year following the pandemic. Yes, I'm pleased to say that Hong Kong is back in business, back to the global stage. And that, of course, includes international law and the progressive unification of the rules of private international law, the essential mandate of HCCH. The theme of this week's, and also, most importantly, our Asia-Pacific Week, puts a considered spotlight on access to justice, sustainability, and interconnectedness. And I can tell you that each of these objectives is highly valued by Hong Kong. Thanks to the unique principle of one country, two systems, Hong Kong maintains a robust and internationally recognized legal system, a rock-solid foundation for the rule of law. Integrity and professional competence remain the hallmarks of our judiciary, which exercise its adjudication power independently in accordance with the basic law. All these enable Hong Kong to thrive as an international hub for finance, trade, shipping, and legal services, and no less important, as the gateway bridging our country with the rest of the world. In our pursuit of growth and sustainable development, we benefit from national strategies closely connected to the global community. The Belt and Road Initiative, launched personally by President Xi Jinping, entered its 10th anniversary this year. The initiative is one of the world's largest big-picture strategies for international cooperation. Hong Kong, thanks to our international financial and professional services prowess, legal services included, is very much involved in assisting Belt and Road projects and their partners. The fast emerging Greater Bay Area, a cluster city development integrating the special administrative regions of Hong Kong and Macau, plus 9 other cities in southern China, is another inspired national initiative. The GBA has a population of over 86 million and registered a combined GDP of over $1.9 trillion last year, which is equivalent to the 10th largest economy in the world. Once again, Hong Kong professionals in law, finance, and a multitude of other services are making a palpable difference. Our strengths as an international legal hub are particularly vital to the progress of the GBA as a global innovation and technology force. We are, of course, blessed with legal talent and experience in matters of international law and dispute resolution. The National 14th Five-Year Plan backs Hong Kong's development as a center for international legal and dispute resolution services in the Asia-Pacific region. It helps, too, that numerous international legal and dispute resolution bodies have established a presence in Hong Kong. They include the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization's Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center, which opened here last year, and the International Organization for Mediation Preparatory Office, which followed earlier this year. And of course, HCCH's Hong Kong Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific turns 11 in December. Indeed, Hong Kong has the only HCCH regional office in the Asia Pacific. And we are pleased and proud to promote HCCH conventions and raise its visibility throughout the region. At last year's Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Economic Leaders in Bangkok, I assured our trading partners of Hong Kong's commitment to regional economic cooperation. This July, I led a delegation to Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore, building on our friendship with the region and its leaders. The 3 countries reaffirmed their support for Hong Kong's accession to the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnerships, or RCEP, the world's largest free trade agreement. I also met with ASEAN's Secretary General when I was in Jakarta. ASEAN has long been Hong Kong's 2nd largest trading partner. And let me add, the long-standing cooperation between Hong Kong and ASEAN has expanded substantially, thanks to a free trade agreement in effect since 2019. Our dedication to advancing regional economic integration is well recognized by the country. Premier Li Qiang, speaking at the ASEAN Plus 3 summit last week, remarked that the Hong Kong SAR is widely regarded as one of the world's most open economies and appealed to the support of RCEP members in supporting our bid to become one of the first economies to join the agreement. We are thankful for the support of the Premier and the central authorities to our ongoing efforts in fostering regional economic cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, Hong Kong remains committed in promoting the great relevance and value of the legal instruments developed by the HCCH in enabling trade and economic activities throughout the region. I'm confident that Hong Kong and the HCCH will continue to play a meaningful role in enhancing access to justice, to sustainable growth, and to interconnectedness in the Asia-Pacific region and well beyond. My congratulations once again to the Hague Conference on Private International Law on your landmark of 130th anniversary, and my thanks to the Regional Office for Asia and for the Pacific for organizing HCCH Asia Pacific Week in Hong Kong. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all the best of business and the business of law at this HCCH Asia Pacific Week. Have a memorable stay in Hong Kong. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Zhang Li. Please be seated. Thank you very much for your warm welcome speech and for your warm wishes. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to invite Ms. Chun Yinghua, Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China, to join us on stage and deliver the remarks. 有请华春莹女士。
The Honorable Chief Executive John Lee, Secretary General Dr. Bernasconi, Chief Justice Andrew Chan, Secretary for Justice Mr. Paul Lam, President and Vice Chairman Professor Zhang Xiang, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure for me to be here to meet all of you in Hong Kong. On behalf of the Chinese government, I wish to extend our warmest congratulations on the 130th anniversary of the Hague Conference and the Asia-Pacific Week. Over the past 130 years, the Hague Conference has grown from an ad hoc diplomatic session to a permanent intergovernmental organization, and from a regional grouping of 13 countries in Europe to a global organization with 91 members across 6 major continents. Founded on a mission to unify the rules of private international law, first in Europe and now the world over, the conference has developed 40 international conventions, making itself the most authoritative and influential international organization in the area of private international law, contributing to the development of private international law worldwide and facilitating exchanges on civil and commercial matters across borders. Throughout the years, China and the Hague Conference have progressed together through win-win cooperation. Following the start of the reform and opening up, China began participating in the conference activities in 1981 and became a full member in 1987. In the 4 decades since, China has taken an active part in the negotiations of various conventions and contributed Chinese wisdom in the legal field. So far, China has joined the Service Convention, the Evidence Convention, the Adoption Convention, and the Apostille Convention. China has also made big efforts to promote international cooperation, proposed suggestions on improving the decision-making mechanism, and provided financial support to the conference operation and development. In these 40 plus years, China has benefited greatly from the outcomes of the Hague Conference, which in turn helped us to develop civil and commercial laws at home. For example, we learned much from the conference in terms of private international law in China, legal assistance on civil and commercial matters, and the legal arrangements between the mainland and the special administrative regions. In 2012, the conference opened its regional office for Asia and Pacific here in Hong Kong. The move has significantly increased awareness about the Hague HCCH in the Asia Pacific, encouraged greater participation from the region, and stands as a good example of win-win cooperation between China and the Hague Conference. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme chosen for this Asia Pacific Week is most relevant. Justice and sustainable development are two major goals for social governance in the interconnected world. Sustainable development is our fundamental pursuit, and justice is an important guarantee. We need both of them, and both of them are mutually reinforcing with each other. Today, the interests of countries are so closely linked that our world is becoming one community with a shared future. So many interactions are taking place between countries, and cross-border exchanges on civil and commercial matters are becoming ever more frequent. All this requires legal cooperation in trade, investment, and many other fields. Since the HCCH has taken as its mission to harmonize the rules of private international law, there is much it can do to promote global connectivity. This year also marks the 10th anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative. Over the past 10 years, the BRI is turning from a blueprint into a reality, from a vision into action, and from a Chinese initiative to a global endeavor. It has won great popularity both as an international public good and as a platform for international cooperation. More than 150 countries and over 30 international organizations have joined the BRI family, and a large number of cooperation projects has been carried out in partner countries, bringing tangible benefits to local communities in terms of better life and more development opportunities. Next month, China will host the third Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation. This will be a good occasion to plan for high-quality Belt and Road cooperation with partner countries and organizations. Promoting collectivity is a shared goal of the BRI and the HCCH, and we believe cooperation on civil and commercial laws will give the BRI even stronger vitality. Working together, the BRI and Hague Conference will give an enormous boost to international legal cooperation on civil and commercial matters, advance the harmonization and development of international rules, and strengthen the international rule of law. With this in mind, I would like to take this opportunity to propose efforts in 3 areas. First, to respond to the need of the times and improve international rules. As globalization deepens, there will be greater need for rules on trade liberalization and investment facilitation. On the one hand, the HCCH may need to develop new convention in view of the latest development of civil and commercial law, speed up the negotiations on the jurisdiction project in particular, and provide more public goods in the area of private international law. On the other hand, it may need to revise the existing conventions to keep them up to date. In making these international conventions, it is particularly important to practice multilateralism, accommodate the concerns of all countries, in particular the interests of developing countries, find consensus across different legal systems and interests, and not to allow international rules to be replaced by the house rules of a few countries. Second, to urge good faith and reinforce compliance. The vitality of laws lies in its compliance. All countries need to exercise their rights according to law, honor obligations in good faith, and properly handle differences and disputes. They should uphold the international economic and trade rules and the multilateral trading system instead of making unlawful actions in the name of law. They should promote equal and uniform application of international law instead of a selective approach or double standards. Efforts should be made to strengthen the implementation of Service Convention and Judgments Convention, advance international judicial cooperation, and foster a healthy order of civil and commercial laws, which serves as the legal foundation for economic and trade exchanges between countries. Third, to enhance cooperation and promote inclusiveness and mutual learning. At the heart of the civil and commercial laws is the spirit of fairness and justice. They reflect the history, culture, and values of individual countries, as well as humanity's common values of peace, development, equity, justice, democracy, and freedom. By drafting conventions, promoting implementation, and formulating model laws, the Hague Conference has done an effective job in encouraging exchanges and mutual learning between countries on civil and commercial law. As we celebrate the diversity of civilization and embrace the global civilization initiative put forward by President Xi Jinping, we also need to enhance inter-civilization dialogue on the rule of law, overcome the differences and barriers through mutual learning and more exchanges, upholding humanity's common values, and work for a community with a shared future for mankind. Ladies and gentlemen, celebrating the 130th anniversary of the Hague Conference of the HCCH in Hong Kong carries special significance. After its return to the motherland, Hong Kong has registered robust growth, cemented its standing as an international financial, shipping, and trading center, and continued to top the world in the level of freedom and openness. The Pearl of the Orient is shining ever brighter, attesting to the success of one country, two systems in Hong Kong. In the legal field, it has developed a new constitutional order based on China's constitution and the basic law by drawing on the strengths of both the common law and civil law, and by combining the legal traditions of the East and the West. All these form the unique advantages of Hong Kong's legal system. Under the new order, Hong Kong has a full-fledged legal system, a stellar contingent of legal professionals, and a highly developed legal service center. It serves as a bridge between the Chinese legal system and other legal systems in the world, and a connector of diverse traditions of the rule of law. Today, Hong Kong stands at a new historical starting point of order and greater prosperity. The decision to open regional offices here by international legal organizations such as the Hague Conference HCCH and the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization is a vote of confidence in Hong Kong's future and has brought new opportunities. It is our hope that friends from the law circle in Hong Kong will build up the city's reputation in the rule of law, help establish Hong Kong as a leading center for international legal and dispute resolution services in Asia Pacific, and add one more title, a center of law, to Hong Kong's already impressive resume. President Xi Jinping asked the Chinese people to have confidence in ourselves, in Hong Kong, and in the country. I believe with the strong backing of the motherland and the unique advantages of one country, two systems, all sectors of Hong Kong society will seize the opportunities and play even significant roles in the great process of Chinese modernization and the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. In conclusion, I wish this event a full success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hua Chunying. Thank you very much for great remarks. And thank you very much for gracing this conference with your presence. Please be seated. Thank you. 非常感谢华春莹女士的讲话，谢谢您，请就坐。Well, ladies and gentlemen, now we'd like to invite Mr. Paul Lam Tin Kok, Secretary for Justice of the Hong Kong SAR, to come on stage and deliver the remarks. Welcome.
The Honorable Chief Executive, Assistant Minister Hua Chunying, Acting Commissioner Pang Yundong, Professor Zhang, Dr. Bernasconi, Chief Justice Zhang, President Lashko, Mr. Leung, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We are extremely honored and grateful that HCCH has chosen to hold the Asia Pacific Week 2023 in Hong Kong. In particular, because HCCH will be celebrating its 130th anniversary during this week. And HCCH will also be marking the entry into force on the 1st of September of the 2019 Judgments Convention. The theme of the HCCH Asia Pacific Week 2023 is access to justice and sustainable development, the impact of HCCH in an interconnected world. The relationship between access to justice and sustainable development is well recognized. Target 3 in Goal 16 of the Sustainable Development Goals set by the United Nations in 2015 is to promote the rule of law at the national and international levels and ensure just access to justice for all. As stated in a document prepared by the Permanent Bureau of the HCCH Council on General Affairs and Policy in March 2020, the United Nations General Assembly has recognized in Target 16.3 of the Sustainable Development Goals that the rule of law is not only about criminal law and transitional justice, but also about mature rule-based commerce as a stabilizing factor and one which can mobilize resources for development, including due process and a strong judicial and legal infrastructure. The frameworks established by HCCH, conventions, and instruments have been recognized for their effective cooperation mechanisms that can overcome the challenges of cross-border procedures and facilitate the orderly and efficient settlement of disputes. In doing so, promoting principles of good governance, sustainable development, and adherence to the rule of law. The theme of this weekly event coincides with the vision of the Department of Justice of Hong Kong, which is advancing the rule of law and access to justice through effective, efficient, and equitable administration of justice and strategic legal policy for inclusive and sustainable development. Hong Kong has built and maintained a very close relationship with HCCH. 8 Hague Conventions are now applicable to Hong Kong. Hong Kong began participating in the meetings or other activities by sending experts as part of a Chinese delegation since 1997. On the 13th of December 2012, HCCH opened its Asia Pacific Regional Office in Hong Kong, which is the first and remains to be the only one in the Asia Pacific. We had held 2 informal working groups meetings of the Judgment Project in Hong Kong, contributing to the successful conclusion of the Judgments Convention. And in 2020, we concluded a memorandum of understanding on the secondment of legal professionals between HCCH and Hong Kong. All these cooperations and collaborations would not have been possible but for the staunch support given by the Central People's Government of China and the successful implementation of the principle of one country, two systems. Pursuant to Articles 151 and 152 of the Basic Law, among other things, Hong Kong may on its own, using the name Hong Kong China, maintain and develop relations and conclude and implement agreements with relevant international organizations in the appropriate fields. Representatives of the Hong Kong government may, as member of the delegation of China, participate in international organization or conferences in appropriate fields limited to states and affecting Hong Kong, or may attend in such other capacity as may be permitted by the Central People's Government and the international organization or conference concerned, and may express their views using the name Hong Kong China. To foster a better and closer relationship with HCCH is indeed Hong Kong's duty under important national development plans, such as the 14th Five-Year Plan, the Guangdong Hong Kong Macau Greater Bay Area Development, and the Belt and Road Initiative, under which Hong Kong is designated to be an international legal service and dispute resolution center. Returning to the theme of this weekly event, Hong Kong is a prime example to showcase the causal link between the rule of law and development. Hong Kong is a highly developed international city, and one of the bedrocks of Hong Kong's success and prosperity is a high degree of rule of law based on its common law system, which continues to apply pursuant to guarantees contained in the Basic Law under the principle of one country, two systems. Ladies and gentlemen, with strong support from the Central People's Government, the Department of Justice of Hong Kong will continue to work closely with HCCH in the years to come. And on this note, I wish the HCCH Asia Pacific Week a great success, and for all those who come from abroad, a very enjoyable stay in Hong Kong. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lam. Thank you for your great speech, and thank you for joining us today for the conference. Thank you. Please be seated. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to invite Professor Xiang Zhang, President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Hong Kong, to join us on stage and deliver the remarks. Please.
The Honorable Chief Executive Zhang Li, Ms. Chen Yunhua, Mr. Paul Lam, Dr. Christopher Bernasconi, Mr. Yun Dongfang, and Chief Justice. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, allow me to welcome you all to the University of Hong Kong, and my heartfelt congratulations to the HCCH Asian Pacific Week. The rule of law is one of the Hong Kong's core strengths and the cornerstone to its status as a global city. It is the DNA of all aspects of our economy and public life, providing a robust framework for development. It is precisely echoes the theme of our conference today: access to the justice and sustainable development. Apart from strong base of the rule of law, which makes us unique, is our advantage of having our country's support and being connected to the globe under one country, two systems. One country, two systems provides Hong Kong with the best institutional protection. The legal experts in Hong Kong are skilled, multilingual, and have a solid reputation for providing high-quality services. This attracts many international firms and organizations to establish their headquarters or regional offices in Hong Kong. Going forward, Hong Kong must seek to strengthen its status as an international legal and dispute resolution service center in the Asian Pacific region. Draw upon our vibrant fintech ecology and exceptional human capital, and uphold the international reputation of its rule of law. These are significant to the sustainable future of Hong Kong and China at large. It is truly our great honor to host this event at the University of Hong Kong. Legal education has always been a top priority in our university. Our law faculty is the oldest in Hong Kong, among the best in Asia, and has developed into an international faculty with academic staff and students from all over the world. It is also globally recognized nexus of research in many areas of law. Hong Kong U, especially the Faculty of Law, will continue to strengthen the legal professional education and academic research. Based in Hong Kong, we will cultivate more legal talent with global vision and professionalism. Our support for HCCH Asian Pacific Week signify our dedication. We are very grateful for your presence at Hong Kong U today to take part in this important event. I look forward to the deliberation, knowledge exchange, and the long-lasting partnership that would no doubt follow from this week. May I take this opportunity to wish you all a wonderful conference ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Zhang, for your great speech and warm wishes. We'd like to thank the University of Hong Kong for the great support, and we also like to thank all of our student ambassadors for supporting this conference greatly. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's invite Dr. Christophe Bernasconi, the Secretary General of the Hague Conference on Private International Law, to deliver a speech. Welcome to the stage.
Honorable Chief Executive Lee, Honorable Assistant Minister Hua, Honorable Acting Commissioner Pan, Chief Justice Zheng, Honorable President Leung, President and Vice Chancellor Zhang, Excellencies, distinguished speakers, special guests, and participants. Let me try this. Huan Yin Da Jia. It is now indeed my great pleasure, on behalf of the HCCH, to welcome you to HCCH Asia Pacific Week 2023. I'm excited to help kick off the next 4 days of activities led by experts from across Asia Pacific region and beyond. I'm glad and inspired to be among some of our organization's strongest supporters, once again gathered here in beautiful, buzzing Hong Kong and joined from all over the world by guests connected online. The consistent quality of this event and the continued work of ROAP, our regional office for Asia and the Pacific, established in the Hong Kong SAR in 2012, have significantly contributed to increasing not only the visibility of the HCCH and its work in this vast region, but also the awareness of its importance and relevance for the region. Chief Executive Lee, Assistant Minister Hua, Acting Commissioner Pan, Secretary Lam, President and Vice Chancellor Zhang, thank you for your wonderful welcome remarks. Following this distinguished group, I do not seek to take much more of our time, but as this year's event is indeed in Hong Kong, let me note with no little amount of pride and gratitude that the very first HCCH Asia Pacific Week was held here in Hong Kong in 2014. And that first historic HCCH Asia Pacific Week 2014 was in fact preceded in 2008 by what back then we called the Asia Pacific Regional Conference. The HCCH thus has strong roots here in Hong Kong, and they will continue to grow deep. We are delighted to be back, and I thank you all wholeheartedly for your continued support. We are grateful for the generous support of the People's Republic of China, the Department of Justice of Hong Kong SAR, and the University of Hong Kong in the organization of this year's Asia Pacific Week, which comes at a particularly special time for the HCCH. As mentioned during the conference, we will celebrate the 130th anniversary of the HCCH, reflecting on its history as a trusted, inclusive forum for multilateral dialogue since 1893. This anniversary coincides with another historic milestone, as a little earlier this year, we witnessed the 1000th treaty action of the HCCH, over 1,000 ratifications, accessions, approvals, or other treaty actions that have led to the entry into force of an HCCH convention in a state and other contracting parties. That's an impressive reflection of the HCCH's effective multilateralism, consensus-based multilateralism. Last but certainly not least, the event will also mark and celebrate the entry into force of the HCCH's latest instrument, the 2019 Judgments Convention. Alongside these celebrations, the HCCH Asia Pacific Week is an opportunity to discuss challenges and opportunities for the further progress of the HCCH and the development of private international law. The discussions will touch upon some of the most prominent HCCH conventions and instruments, as well as the HCCH's ongoing normative projects on possible future work in our three main areas of work: transnational litigation and the apostille, international family and child protection law, as well as commercial, digital, and financial law. This year's Asia Pacific Week has the theme Access to Justice and Sustainable Development, the impact of the HCCH in an interconnected world. We selected this theme in recognition of the contribution which private international law can make and must make to the further advancement of the Sustainable Development Goals and the need for further analysis of the intersection between them. Indeed, as the year 2030 is just around the corner, significant efforts will be required to ensure the world is on track to meet the 2030s Agenda's global development goals. The HCCH conventions, properly implemented and operated, can supply governments with powerful, practical tools to advance sustainable development and strengthen human rights across various sectors. Before closing, I should like to thank my colleagues. First, Deputy Secretary General Jericho Escola, always a pleasure to have you by my side. And of course, also Representative Professor Yun Chao. Where is Yun? Here is Yun, sorry. Yun Chao and the entire ROAP team. Legal Officer Levi Gao, Office Manager Alex Ng, and our secondee, Diana Won, who will be joining us in The Hague in a few weeks from now. Thank you for all you are doing day in and day out as our champions here, helping to increase the visibility of the HCCH and its work across this vast and diverse region. Once again, welcome. I wish you all a successful and illuminating HCCH Asia Pacific Week 2023. Xie xie.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big hand to Dr. Bernasconi. Thank you for creating such a great opportunity for a big get-together. Thank you so much. So now, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed with the first session of today's discussion, why don't we take a second to remember this great moment of being together, right? So I'd like to invite some esteemed guests to be on stage, and we can take a group photo together. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the Honorable John Casey Lee, please. And Miss 华春莹，有请华春莹女士与我们一起进行合影。And let's welcome Dr. Christophe Bernasconi. Mr. Yun Dongpan, 潘云东先生。The Honorable Mr. Andrew Leung Kuan Yuan, please join the stage. And Mr. 辛明马，马希民先生。Let's welcome the Honorable Chief Justice Andrew Chang. Please join the group photo. And Professor Xiang Zhang. Let's welcome Mr. Paul Lam. Please join the stage. Okay, thank you for taking this second. And let's welcome Mr. Horace Chan Kuo-kwan. Please join the stage. Professor Huang Lingfu, please join the group photo. And Dr. James Ding, welcome to the stage. Let's also welcome Professor Geraldine Go Escolar. Please join the stage. And Professor Yun Zhao, please join the group photo. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So we can maybe step a little bit closer to each other. Okay. Beautiful picture. Let's look at the cameraman in front of you and give a big smile. Thank you so much. Okay, let's look at the camera. 让我们一起看向正前方的官方摄影师，露出灿烂的微笑。Let's wish a great success for the HCCH Asia Pacific Week 2023. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Please return to your seat. Thank you very much. All right, and ladies and gentlemen, now we'd like to express our heartfelt gratitude to the Honorable Mr. Zhang Li and Ms. Hua Chunying for your presence and your participation today. 我们非常感谢李家超特首和华春莹女士出席今天的盛会。We thank you very much for your time here today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you very much for joining us today. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please have a seat. And now it is with great pleasure that we commence today's conference with our first session of the day titled The HCCH Benefits of Membership and Key Conventions. We look forward to engaging discussions, valuable insights, and fruitful collaboration during this conference. Recognizing the pivotal role played by the HCCH in fostering international legal cooperation, we're honored to have with us Dr. Christophe Bernasconi, Secretary General of the HCCH. And Dr. Bernasconi will be delivering an introduction presentation that provides us with a comprehensive overview of the HCCH. Dr. Bernasconi, please join me on stage.
Good afternoon again. So, the purpose of this presentation is essentially to set the stage for our discussions over the next 4 days, making sure that we are all on the same page, all have the same basic understanding of what the HCCH is and what it does. And then indeed recall some of the basic advantages and benefits of being a member of the HCCH and a contracting party to some of our key conventions. And I do apologize in advance to all of you who are already HCCH experts, but I hope nonetheless that this presentation helps us to get the ball rolling, essentially. So, without further ado, let's just first recall that the HCCH, of course, is an intergovernmental organization with origins dating back to, we now know, 1893, which makes us the oldest of all the legal institutions based in The Hague. The mandate is also quite unique. According to Article 1 of the statute, which entered into force in 1955 and made the HCCH a permanent organization. So according to its Article 1, the mandate of the HCCH is the progressive unification of the rules of private international law, jurisdiction, applicable law, recognition and enforcement of judgments, and indeed the development of the fourth dimension of private international law, cooperation, legal cooperation. We respond to this mandate by developing international treaties. We call them the HCCH conventions and some other instruments, protocols or soft law instrument. And what also distinguishes the work of the HCCH is that we think it's one thing to put these conventions on the table, it's another thing to make sure that they really work in practice, that they are implemented properly and work according to what they have been designed to do. Most importantly, these, certainly the core conventions, have a huge practical impact, develop practical benefits for individuals, families, and businesses in cross-border situations. When we describe the work of the HCCH, I certainly like to use the image of a bridge. Why? Because the bridge connects, and the work of the HCCH very much connects as well. It connects different legal systems. But the work is designed in such a way that at both ends of the bridge, the impact on the domestic substantive law is designed to be as little as possible. That's the beauty of unifying private international law as opposed to substantive law, because when you do private international unification, you can do so in respect of the often political, societal, religious expressions that one finds in a state's domestic law. But once you are engaged on this bridge, once you have the bridge, it does provide legal certainty and predictability to all those engaged in these cross-border situations, and it also provides the mechanisms for effective cooperation, practical cooperation between states to overcome the often practical challenges in judicial or administrative procedures. And so all of that facilitates cross-border interactions while respecting legal diversity. The HCCH certainly has a global mandate, and we try to promote our conventions on a global basis, but one should not forget also that when a region, say ASEAN or APEC, just to name two in this region, would decide to collectively join our conventions, well, you have a strong integrating factor that is provided through these international treaties, which then provide benefits not just at the regional level, but at the same time also at the global level. So really what I like to stress when talking about the work of the HCCH is that it really stands for effective, practical multilateralism. Maybe one quiz question: why do we call it HCCH? I'm sure a lot, maybe most of you know by now, but it's a contraction of the English name of the organization, the Hague Conference on Private National Law, and French, La Conférence de droit national privé, which is the other official language of the HCCH. And luckily, it will also work in Spanish, because our Council earlier this year decided to add Spanish as a third official language, la Conferencia de la Haya de Derecho Internacional Privado. So CH, will also work, and so we can mingle these letters as we please. So it should be fine. As we speak, the organization has 91 members across the world, the globe, and you will quickly realize that based on this map, I never feel comfortable to say that we are a truly global universal organization, because we are not. There is just too much gray still on this map, and one of our jobs is to make sure that we can continue to color this map. Now, based on this map, however, I do feel more comfortable to say that we are somewhat global, because in addition to all the members, there are more than 60 other states and contracting parties that are party to at least one convention without being a member of the organization. That's okay, because all our conventions are open conventions. Any state can join these. But after a certain time of having enjoyed the benefit of the work of the HCCH as what one may call a free rider, they get a nice letter from me as SG encouraging them to, consider becoming a member of the organization, and we can talk about the benefits in a while. And this and other arguments kind of work. You see here the evolution of the membership over the last years, since 1955, since the organization became permanent, and you see in particular a steady increase, sharp increase in 2000 and the years to come. As we have heard, in total we have 40 instruments that have been developed in these modern times, conventions, protocols, and one soft law instrument. And we divide them in three main categories or divisions, as we call them: international family law and child protection law, transnational litigation and apostille, and the codify, the international commercial, digital, and financial law division. We list the conventions, or I list the conventions simply here, part of these various divisions. We will hear about these conventions in much more detail throughout the coming days, so there is no need to go into any details here, but let me simply stress that the first division, the family law division, really has this strong human rights connection, and these conventions do actually provide states with clear means, practical means, to give real effect to the rights that are enshrined in the UN Convention, particularly of the rights of the child. These conventions provide the mechanism to give real effect to what is in the UN Convention. And for the transnational litigation and apostille convention, this is where also the legal cooperation between states comes really to the forefront and plays a hugely important role in, again, overcoming not just the practical challenges of international judicial or administrative procedures, but also develop this trust function that needs to be present between states when you want to have, for example, a judgment from one jurisdiction to be recognized and enforced in another jurisdiction. And then in the codify world, again, in this rapidly changing environment, you need all this legal certainty and predictability at the international level before you can really engage and develop your international cross-border commercial activities. And all these conventions, they continue to attract regularly new contracting parties. You see that all these graphs, they basically point into the same direction, which is upwards, which is good, and we continue to work on that. And again, it kind of works because I like to refer to our work as a reflection of effective multilateralism. I just mentioned that we passed our milestone of 1,000 ratifications. Well, as we speak, we're actually already at 1,004. And as I was trying to say before, this in and for itself, to me, is an impressive reflection of effective multilateralism, but it becomes maybe even more impressive when you start to calculate how many bilateral agreements it would take to establish the same type of treaty network amongst states. I'm sure we have some quick math minds here in the room, but it's actually more than 31,600 bilateral agreements that it would take to achieve the same result. And that's why I think HCCH really stands for effective multilateralism. It's also interesting to see where these ratifications, accessions, and all of that come from. 1,004 on a worldwide basis, but more than 650 alone come from Europe, 142 from the Americas, 136 from Asia Pacific, and only 75 from Africa. That also shows that there is much work ahead of us in terms of really, bringing this organization to a truly universal level, certainly in particular in Africa. And it's striking that Africa is the only region where we don't have an actual presence. And I'm personally convinced that a regional presence would help to increase this visibility and the understanding of the relevance of the work of the HCCH. But also in Asia Pacific, I think there is room for significant improvements in terms of having states really enjoying the benefits of the work of the HCCH in form of all these conventions. So there is still room for a number of states to join and reap the benefits of these instruments. When you look at two of the organizations, important organizations in the region, APEC and ASEAN, you see that, I know that APEC is economy-based, but it's essentially 19 states which are reflected through membership in the HCCH. 16 of the APEC members are members also of the HCCH. 2, without being a member, are at least party to one or more conventions, which basically means that it's only Papua New Guinea that is not connected at all within the APEC world, but again, something that should be looked into. Within ASEAN, out of the 10 ASEAN members, 5 are also members of the HCCH. 3 are non-member connected parties, which means that it's basically just Laos and Myanmar that are not connected amongst ASEAN states. Now let's have a fairly quick look at the benefits that membership bring and the benefits that some of our core conventions bring. Well, joining the HCCH as a member essentially gives you a seat at the table. And with this seat at the table, you can shape the work program of the HCCH. It is the members, obviously, who decide what we are working on. And as a member, of course, you are also having a seat at the table for the negotiations of new instruments. So if you want to be part of this global consensus that's being developed through the work of the HCCH, you need to be a member of the organization and make your voice heard. And that voice, in this case, would of course also strengthen the voice of Asia within the HCCH in general. And that would give, as I was trying to explain, real effect to to universality and inclusiveness, which are core strategic principles of the HCCH, as we've just confirmed again in a new strategic plan that we have adopted earlier this year. And it's not just being at the table that matters. It's of course also making sure that members bring their own expertise to the table and share their expertise and make others benefit from that expertise and the experience that they may have with specific topics or issues. So it's really an enriching exercise to be part of these negotiations, and we can only invite states that are not yet a member to really join the group and the table and make their voice heard. Only through that seat at the table you can make sure that your interests are being effectively addressed and taken into account, both at the national or also regional level. What is, practically speaking, also quite important as a benefit of being a member is that as a member you have priority access to technical assistance. And what we mean by technical assistance is detailed training, sending sometimes experts to states to help with the implementation of a specific convention, setting up a central authority, maybe revisiting the implementation or implementing legislation. We can only organize and take part in this technical assistance if the request comes from a member, because we're simply getting too many of these requests and we have to prioritize, and naturally we serve members first. That is an argument actually that has also encouraged a number of states to become members in the recent past. And last but not least, I think it's fair to say that members benefit from an excellent cost-benefit ratio, because being a member of the HCCH really doesn't cost that much, considering the benefits that one gets, and in particular also considering the resources that states save by joining the multilateral effort, as opposed to trying to do all these things on a bilateral basis again and again and again and again. When we now look at the benefits of joining conventions, well, I think I've mentioned them already. It's really, to have access to practical, proven solutions that are often expected, frankly speaking, to be in place, in particular in the business context. Before you do business in another jurisdiction, you want to know what are the rules of the game, and private national law is very much part of it. Some of these conventions are clearly seen as international standards. That's certainly true also for the family and child protection conventions. So really a top reason to join all these conventions, all the more as they do provide this legal certainty and predictability that is needed in this chaos of legal rules that may be applicable from different legal systems when you are exposed in a multi-jurisdictional situation or transaction. So you really need this legal certainty and predictability, and the access to international cooperation that often comes with these conventions. And as I mentioned, they really have very little impact on the domestic legal systems, allow states to save resources. It strengthens the integration, including at the regional level. No need to reinvent the wheel all the time. Just follow the international standard and use it. And all of that also, of course, facilitates the move and flow, the mobility of people, goods, and capital. And by joining these conventions, you effectively protect vulnerable people internationally, in particular children. These child abduction, child protection, adoption, and child support conventions are, core conventions for the protection of children in international situations. And on the other hand, by joining these conventions, you also participate in rule-based multilateral trade and commerce that is being facilitated by all these conventions. And last but not least, and since this is the overarching theme of our conference here, this is one way of giving effect to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and in particular SDG 16, that refers 16.2 to protection of children and 16.3 to the rule of law with equal access to justice for all. This is essentially what I wanted to share with you by way of introduction. I do hope that it helps us, get the ball rolling and engage into substantive discussions on the work of the HCCH and all these conventions in more detail. Thank you for your attention.
Testing. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Bernasconi, for providing us with a very thorough, detailed, and comprehensive introduction of the HCCH. Thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's invite the Honorable Chief Justice Andrew Chung, Chief Justice of the Court of Final Appeal of the Hong Kong SAR, to deliver a keynote speech on the topic of private international law and the rule of law. Welcome to the stage.
Dr. Bernasconi, distinguished speakers, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to give this keynote speech today. It would be appropriate for me to begin by extending my most heartfelt congratulations and those of the Hong Kong judiciary to Dr. Bernasconi and the Hague Conference on Private International Law on celebrating their 130th year anniversary this year. This places the Hague Conference amongst the oldest international intergovernmental organizations in the world, predating the United Nations, in an illustration of the importance of harmonization in the area of private international law. What is considered private international law is subject to a number of interpretations. The most narrow of these focuses on the conflicts of laws. The specialized principles and rules of domestic law used by courts to decide which law to apply in disputes involving parties of different jurisdictions or agreements or transactions which cross different boundaries. In such circumstances, courts may have to decide whether it is the law of the forum, the law of one of the parties' nationality, or the law of the place which the agreement or transaction is performed or mainly performed in, that should apply to the dispute. The principles which guide the courts in this regard may be thought of as private international law. A wider interpretation of private international law extends its scope beyond the principles to be applied by the courts to any provisions in domestic law which deal with the exercise of jurisdictions over persons, property, and transactions where they cross boundaries. Moreover, this definition of private international law is also extended to the enforcement of judgments of other jurisdictions. This thus includes issues of the scope of a domestic court's power to hear cases which involve parties of other nationalities or transactions with overseas elements, as well as the recognition and enforcement of overseas judgments by domestic courts. These questions of the jurisdiction of domestic courts, the choice of law, and the enforcement of judgments may be considered the core of private international law issues. Such questions may also be considered the most difficult ones as well. In the age in which we live, an even broader interpretation of what constitutes private international law must now be considered. As intergovernmental organizations such as the Hague Conference continue to develop principles and instruments through their many endeavors, both old and new, we must now include these accomplishments in the scope of what we consider to be private international law. This is especially true of the procedures by which contradictory domestic rules may be overcome and the underlying principles of harmonization across different jurisdictions are applied. In deference to Dr. Bernasconi and all the distinguished speakers at this conference, I shall of course leave the details of the instruments established under the Hague Conference to their individual sessions throughout the course of this week, which I'm sure you are all looking forward to. Each of these instruments add a new dimension to what we consider within the scope of private international law. From the 1961 Apostille Convention, 1965 Service Convention, and 1970 Evidence Convention, all in support of adjudicative procedure, to the expanding frontier of financial instruments, such as the 1985 Trusts Convention and the 2006 Securities Convention, to the most recent and exciting work on digital currencies, digital assets and tokens, to the increasingly important instruments in the family law area, namely the 1980 Child Adoption Convention, the 1993 Adoption Convention, the 1996 Child Protection Convention, to the year 2000 Adults Convention and the 2007 Child Support Convention. As I mentioned earlier, the questions of jurisdiction of courts, choice of law, and the enforceability of judgments are the core of private international law, but are also potentially the most difficult ones to grapple with. In particular, it is well understood how difficult it would be to grapple with topics such as when it would be permissible for domestic courts to exercise jurisdiction over foreign parties or transactions, or a unitary approach to questions of choice of law, or the basis of recognition and enforcement of foreign judgments by domestic courts, or an intergovernmental multilateral basis. Yet even in these areas, the Hague Conference has now succeeded in making significant progress, such as through the 2005 Choice of Court Convention, the 2015 Choice of Law Principles, and perhaps now most importantly, the 2019 Judgments Convention, which I'm sure we are all particularly looking forward to hearing about. In its 130 years, the Hague Conference has made significant achievements and will no doubt continue to do so as private international law grows in importance in an increasingly interconnected world. The role of private international law, and in particular, such international multilateral conventions, in the promotion of trade, commerce, and economic development cannot be understated. Whilst governmental level initiatives are important in this regard, business remains driven by private activities. But these activities must have a legal basis, not just in being permissible under the law of the land, but in being easily understandable, accessible, and enforceable by foreign parties before domestic courts. Without private international law, domestic legal and judicial regimes would serve only as obstacles to cross-border business. Thus, the growth of international multilateral conventions, such as those established by the Hague Conference, are critical to the facilitation of the clarity, certainty, and predictability of cross-border business. The gaps that are bridged by private international law in this way not only extend between different systems of law, but between economies at different stages of development, which is also critical. Private international law provides a framework through which countries that may lack certain legal infrastructure to still participate in cross-border business, where such countries might otherwise be disadvantaged in attracting international trade and investment. The role of private international law goes far beyond the simple promotion of international economic development, but the promotion of the rule of law to jurisdictions in which legal infrastructure is still lacking or in development. By removing legal obstacles between different jurisdictions, not only are institutions being built and relied upon, but also encouraged to systematically enforce and protect the rights of individuals and entities through fair and impartial laws and procedures. This in turn contributes to institutional integrity and accountability, whilst building the transparency and legitimacy of such institutions through the adoption and enforcement of internationally recognized principles and standards. In this regard, private international law helps promote independent and impartial judiciaries, as well as the use of alternative dispute resolution processes, such as arbitration. The enforcement of individual business rights serves to promote the protection of personal, property, and consumer rights in a uniform and systematic way. As a regional and international hub for trade and finance, private international law has long been established and indeed played a crucial part in Hong Kong's economic and legal success story. This is demonstrated by the number of Hague Conventions that are applicable in Hong Kong, but perhaps best illustrated by the fact that Hong Kong is the home to the HCCH Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific. The strengthening of the rule of law and the significance of the Hague Conference to the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region go far beyond merely promoting economic development or facilitating a business. First, the contribution of the Hague Conference to the rule of law extends beyond general civil court procedure and enforcement. As it becomes increasingly easy for people to travel abroad for work and establish families in other jurisdictions, the need for private international law to incorporate family law into its purview has never been greater. In this regard, I have already mentioned the Hague Conference efforts in respect of the 1980 Child Adoption Convention, the 1993 Adoption Convention, the 1996 Child Protection Convention, to the year 2000 Adults Convention, and the 2007 Child Support Convention, all of which will be discussed in detail in the course of this week. The Child Adoption Convention, the Adoption Convention, and the Child Protection Convention in particular serve as the foundation for international and cross-border child protection and have increasingly been featured in family litigation in Hong Kong. As families are now able to span continents, so too must the legal regimes that ensure the enforcement of their rights, as well as resolve their disputes and, unfortunately, their dissolutions. These unfortunate situations not only are likely to be disruptive and emotionally harmful, but expensive and financially draining on families in situations where financial resources should not be unnecessarily drained. The Hague Conference has thus continued to lead the way with the 2007 Child Support Convention and to be active in this continuously developing and often difficult area of law. This illustrates how the Hague Conference not only promotes the cross-border flow of trade and business and the effective resolution and enforcement of disputes, but the well-being of families and children in a wider approach to the rule of law than just economic development and prosperity alone. This further illustrates how private international law as a whole continues to grow and adapt from its procedural or business-based origins. The cross-border principles of the Hague Conference have also been highly influential in the growth and development of the one country, two systems principle in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. Following the resumption of the exercise of sovereignty in 1997, it has been necessary to establish and implement a practical regime of mutual recognition and enforcement between the legal system on the mainland and the common law system of Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, preserved under the Basic Law. This regime includes the arrangement on reciprocal recognition and enforcement of civil judgments in matrimonial and family cases by the courts of the mainland and of the Hong Kong SAR, implemented by the mainland judgments in matrimonial and family cases, reciprocal recognition and enforcement ordinance. The record of meeting of the Supreme People's Court and the government of the Hong Kong SAR on mutual recognition of and assistance to bankruptcy insolvency proceedings between the courts of the mainland and of the Hong Kong SAR, the arrangement on reciprocal recognition and enforcement of judgments in civil and commercial matters pursuant to choice of court agreements signed between the mainland and Hong Kong in 2006 as implemented by the Mainland Judgment Reciprocal Enforcement Ordinance. And most recently, the arrangements on reciprocal recognition and enforcement of judgments in civil and commercial matters, implemented by the Mainland Judgments in Civil and Commercial Matters Reciprocal Enforcement Ordinance, which should come into force in next year. These arrangements draw heavy inspiration from the 2005 Choice of Court Convention, as it represents an interface between common law and civil law jurisdictions, as well as the 2019 Judgments Convention. In particular, no choice of court agreement being required for the enforcement of judgments between the mainland and the Hong Kong SAR. In this regard, the efforts of the Hague Conference have been influential and enormously beneficial to the development of the rule of law in Hong Kong under the one country, two systems principle, based on which Hong Kong's distinctive status and advantages are maintained, including Hong Kong's common law system. The application of these cross-border private international law principles serves to illustrate how the one country, two systems policy can be made to work in practice in the face of potentially difficult and similar issues of jurisdiction of courts and enforcement of judgments. The impact of private international law on the rule of law can thus be seen not only in the lowering of legal obstacles to cross-border enforcement and the promotion of business and economic development, but the protection of individual and consumer rights and interests, and the enhancement and development of international family law and increasingly smooth interface between common law and civil law systems. The work of the Hague Conference over the last 130 years has been exceptionally important to private international law. As the scope of private international law itself continues to expand and incorporate other elements, it will no doubt continue to be a significant contributor in this regard. With this important work in mind, it remains for me to congratulate the Hague Conference on an outstanding 130 years history and contributions to human and legal development, and in particular, to wish this conference this week every success. To all the distinguished speakers, thank you for all your hard work, and for those coming from other countries, I hope your visit is a memorable one. Finally, to all the participants in this conference, we look forward to all your contributions, and I wish each and every one of you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice, for a very inspiring and insightful keynote speech. Thank you very much. Please be seated. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce 5 distinguished guest speakers to go up to the stage, and they will provide us with their valuable regional perspectives on the topic at hand. So let's welcome Professor Yun Zhao, representative of the HCCH Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific, and Associate Dean of the Faculty of Law of the University of Hong Kong. Please have a seat on the stage first. Thank you. And let's welcome Ms. Melissa Pang, President of the Law Association for Asia and the Pacific. Welcome to the stage. Dr. James Ding, Chair of the APAC Economic Committee, Law Officer, International Law of the Department of Justice of the Hong Kong SAR. Welcome to the stage. And Mr. Dennis Tsai, Deputy Director of the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization, Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center. Welcome to the stage. and Dr. Jin Sun, Director General of the International Organization for Mediation Preparatory Office. Welcome to the stage. So, firstly, may we invite Professor Yun Zhao to the podium to give a speech. Welcome to the podium.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great honor for me to speak on this very important occasion regarding private international law in the Asia-Pacific region, providing an important occasion actually for us to share and exchange views in this field. As representative of the Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific of the Hague Conference on Private International Law, I would like to talk about the significant relevance and potential of the HCCH and its conventions for our region. The rapid expansion of cross-border transactions, mobility of people, and family relationship within and outside the region would all benefit from the support of an international legal framework. The HCCH has taken this important role to facilitate international transactions and protect the interests of vulnerable parties involved. The HCCH conventions help to promote cooperation among courts and other authorities that are indispensable in an age of globalization and progressive regional integration. When compared with other regions around the world, the Asia-Pacific region is unique in many aspects. First, it is a region made up of many countries, and their geographical dispersion makes travel, including dispute resolution, more expensive. Second, the region is populated with common law, civil law, and hybrid legal system. Third, multitude of different languages is spoken, making it more difficult for parties to access and understand the laws and procedures of countries they engage in business with. And fourth, the region is also made up of varying levels of economic growth, resulting in considerable differences in the sophistication of court practices and procedures. The Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific, ROAP, set up 11 years ago, plays a role to strengthen the ties between the HCCH and the states in the region. Last year, we celebrated the 10th anniversary of the ROAP. The ROAP has an aim to promote the HCCH and its conventions by increasing awareness of the value of the membership of the organization and the usefulness of the conventions to the region. It also brings benefits in terms of assisting states with the implementation of the conventions. As the HCCH's influence becomes more and more global, a growing number of Asia-Pacific countries join the HCCH and all its conventions, both benefiting from and contributing to the HCCH. Since the year of 2000, the number of HCCH member states has grown rapidly. Among the 44 new members, 16 are from Asia. The increased membership has in the region will bring wider representation of a diverse range of legal tradition to the HCCH and help the HCCH to develop new instruments better adapted to meet the needs of the region. The Asia-Pacific region includes some of the world's most populous nations and some of the most commercially energetic. As people in the region grow in affluence, as they travel more, as borders become more fluid, so private international law grows in relevance to the needs of the region. Although the states in our region are geographically close, they represent a wide variety of cultures and legal traditions. Private international law, with the intention to bridge different cultures and legal traditions, is therefore very useful in providing a framework for cooperation, both for the states in the region and between these states and those located outside the region. It will also provide additional opportunity for enhancing certainty and predictability of cross-border private, commercial, and financial transactions and relationships. promoting judicial and administrative cooperation, and reinforcing protection of children and other vulnerable persons in transport cases. Benefits will accrue within the region and also between states in and outside the region. In terms of cooperation between international organizations, the HCCH has maintained close relationship with regional organizations. The states in our region has on various occasions emphasized the significant role of the sound legal framework in fostering economic and social development. A more uniform and harmonized legal framework will enable existing domestic infrastructures to facilitate the fair, efficient, and cost-effective resolution of disputes between businesses and people from different states, enhancing cooperation towards post-pandemic recovery and create a stable, prosperous, and highly competitive economic region. Private international law is of a significant practical importance in the implementation of the economic integration initiatives, in the promotion of inclusiveness and a harmonized cross-border legal framework. Looking into the future, we may need to seriously consider the following issues. First, it is unrealistic to unify private international law rules in our region. However, it would be useful to look into possible harmonization. As such, it is important to strengthen the research and education of private international law in the region. We need to have a core team of scholars and experts working together to explore the possible approach to realize the harmonization of private international law in our region. Second, when it comes to Great Bay Area in China, it will be necessary to look into the issues related to inter-regional conflict of laws. At the moment, mainland China and Hong Kong, Macau have reached bilateral arrangements on judicial and administrative assistance in various issues. It will be necessary to explore conflict of laws issue within the context of a sovereign state. Third, strengthen the role of the HCCH regional office in serving as a platform to facilitate the exchange of views and discussions on relevant private international law issues in our region through meetings, conferences, and informal discussions at different levels, including amongst academics, officials, and administrators. Fourth, international conventions have been considered most useful in the harmonization of this process, in view of the difficulty and necessary efforts in the conclusion of hard laws. We may also need to consider the functioning of soft law documents. To sum up, private international law provides those whose lives and activities across the borders between different legal systems with a high degree of legal certainty and predictability. Apart from enhancing the ease of doing business, they also establish effective state-to-state judicial and administrative cooperation mechanisms that can overcome the challenges of cross-border procedures and promote the orderly and efficient settlement of disputes, good governance, and the rule of law. Private international law works for people and businesses alike, effectively helping them to overcome the daily practical challenges of private international law issues. It has a direct impact on people's lives and the way commercial operators conduct their cross-border businesses. The impact of private international law is rising. A changing global environment, fanned by new technologies and digitalization, requires strong frameworks which accommodate pragmatically differences between jurisdictions that otherwise would prove significant obstacles to trade, commerce, investment, and mobility. This is particularly relevant to the Asia-Pacific region, with rich cultural background, legal system, and largest population. There is no doubt that private international law will bring about much practical benefits to our region in building bridges between legal systems and reducing obstacles to cross-border dispute resolution, and reinforcing legal certainty and security across border, increasing the ease with which commercial policy, and human capital can be best leveraged in a dynamic and fast-paced environment in our region. So with this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please return to your seat. Thank you, Professor Yun Zhao, for sharing your insights with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, next let's have Ms. Melissa Pound. Please come to the podium for your remarks.
Dr. Bernasconi, our fellow panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to be speaking at this conference today as the president of Law Asia, which is a regional law association representing the legal profession in the Asia-Pacific region. On behalf of Law Asia, I would like to extend our most sincere congratulations to the Hague Convention on Private International Law, HCCH, on its 130th anniversary, and also the entry into the force of the HCCH 2019 Judgments Convention on 1st of September. The HCCH has been instrumental in harmonizing private international law and promoting mutual legal cooperation, thereby enhancing legal certainty and legal predictability in our interconnected world. The HCCH Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific has been actively engaged in Hong Kong for over 11 years, working towards the progressive unification of private international law. It has successfully encouraged many Asian countries to join the HCCH and becomes party to its instruments. This really demonstrates that Hong Kong serves as an ideal regional legal hub. And for Law Asia, we also recognize the importance of Hong Kong as an international legal and dispute resolution hub. Following the success of Law Asia 32nd Conference in Hong Kong back in 2019, we have strengthened our cooperation and exchange with the Department of Justice in Hong Kong. Law Asia now has a presence in the Hong Kong legal hub, enabling us to expand our activities and grow in the region. We are grateful to the Department of Justice for facilitating our training programs, conference, and other events. In fact, we do plan to host another conference in Hong Kong in the second quarter next year. So it highlights Law Asia's commitment to Hong Kong as an international legal hub. Law Asia has a strong interest and connection with the United Nations. Actually, the idea of setting up Law Asia, it actually stems back to 1964 in a United Nations Human Rights Seminar in Afghanistan. Since we set up in 1966, we work closely with our organization members to address the challenges facing the region. We have over 50 leading bar associations and legal organizations, spanning across over 40 jurisdictions in Asia and the Pacific region. Most of them are Belt and Road countries. And one thing in common is we are all guided by our core values of the rule of law, access to justice, and the protection of human rights, and international legal cooperation is at the heart of our mission. And talking about our working relation with HCCH, actually, my immediate past president, Mr. Jong Wan Choi from Korea, was invited to join HCCH working group on matters related to jurisdiction in transnational civil or commercial litigation working group. And he represents Law Asia to take part in this working group as an observer. So the Law Asia voice is heard, and also we hope we can share our experience in further the working group's work. And as an organization, Law Asia also hold consultative status at the meeting of the United Nations Economic and Social Council subsidiary bodies, and also, as well as the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law. And also, we have permanent observer status at the World Intellectual Property Organization. And as to the work of Law Asia, because we issue statement of principle on matters of law, legal practice, the legal profession, and the rule of law. And our statement aims to reflect a consensus view of our members. Important issues we hold dearly to our heart are like children's rights, access to justice, privacy law, and freedom of assembly for lawyers, human rights, and the protection of the rule of law. They are all central to Law Asia's work. And we also have observer mission, fact-finding assignments, and for example, we have conducted fact-finding missions in the Republic of Maldives, and we set up a presidential task force on the humanitarian crisis in the Rakhine state in Myanmar. And last week, we also held our human rights conference in Fukuoka. One very important issue that came out in the conference is the human rights violations and also the children's rights. And we can see that the Hague Convention is so relevant to all individuals, to all countries. And I can see Law Asia and the HCCH share common value to access of justice and the rule of law. And I certainly see a lot of room for collaboration. Next summer, we'll hold an international conference in Da Nang in Vietnam. This will focus on the United Nations Declaration on Children's Rights. And certainly, we'll touch on the International Family and all those conventions, 1993 Adoption Convention, and the 1980 Child Adoption Convention, and the 1996 Child Protection Convention, also the 2000 Protection of Adults Convention, and last but not the least, the 2007 Child Support Convention. They are very important conventions, and we hope we can, in our conference, we can have the opportunity to collaborate more with HCCH. And also, this year, our annual conference will be held in Bengaluru, in India, in November 24th to 27th. And certainly, Hague Conventions is one of a very important topic that we will discuss. And I'll extend invitation to you all to join Law Asia in India. And also, now I would like to thank the HCCH, and also with the support of Department of Justice and the Hong Kong U Law Faculty, for making this such a wonderful HCCH Asia Pacific Week. Because I can see we have friends from all over the world, and I believe, and this is only through dialogue and collaboration, that wonderful things and essential things, such as access to justice, rule of law, equity, equality, sustainable development can be achieved. And I have to congratulate the HCCH for its 130th anniversary. And sure, we'll look forward to more collaboration in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Melissa. Thank you. Thank you very much for your speech. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's have Dr. James Dane to the podium for his speech. Welcome to the podium.
Dr. Bernasconi, Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. May I first express my gratitude to HCCH for putting together this Asia Pacific Week in Hong Kong and for inviting me to speak at these important sessions. This year's Asia Pacific Week is timely as it offers us an opportunity occasions to come together to celebrate the 130th anniversary of HCCH, which has since the late 19th century dedicated itself to the international developments of private international law. While a lot have changed since 1893, and HCCH has been tackling many new challenges nowadays, there's one area that HCCH has been working on and will continue to work on. That is technical assistance or capacity building for contracting states and potential contracting states. In fact, capacity building initiatives by and among international organizations play a key role in equipping government officials, petitioners, and other stakeholders to navigate the international legal landscape. These capacity building initiatives foster dialogues across sectors at different levels, ensuring uniform interpretations of international instruments and their implementations by reinforcing local legal infrastructure and building up a pool of experts and professionals which facilitate and contribute to access to justice and sustainable development of international law. As the chair of the APEC Economic Committee, I would like to thank HCCH for the capacity building efforts offered to the APEC members, especially since the establishment of the HCCH.
Hello.
Yeah, I would like to thank, in particular, HCCH and its regional office for Asia Pacific, WOAP, in Hong Kong, for the efforts of capacity building offered to APEC members. Over the years, a number of APEC workshops have been organized to enhance APEC member economies' understanding of Hague instruments and build the capacity of APEC members' economies to improve their current regimes by making good use of HCCH instruments. These workshops cover areas on ease of doing business through promoting HCCH instruments such as the Apostle Conventions, Trust of Court Conventions, and other capacity building initiatives relating to the supply chain and dispute resolutions. The strong collaborations between HCCH and APEC has reached a milestone in 2017 when the HCCH has become an accredited guest of the APEC Economic Committee and is able to attend meetings and other work of the Economic Committees since then. All these efforts have helped to promote greater awareness of the value and importance of HCCH instruments for economic developments in the APEC regions. It's most encouraging to note that the APEC minister in 2014 welcomed the joint effort of the Economic Committee and the Asia Pacific Regional Office of the Hague Conference on Private International Law to build awareness of private international law instruments to facilitate cross-border trade and investment, enhance ease of doing business, and foster effective enforcement of contracts and efficient settlements of business disputes. Stressing the importance of work to develop model legal instruments and commanding APEC work in this area in collaboration with the Hague Conference on Private International Law, the ministers in the 2015 APEC Structural Reform Ministerial Statements further agreed that the development of international legal instruments and their adoption will create a more conducive climate for cross-border trade and investments, thus facilitating economic growth. Use of these instruments provides greater legal certainty in cross-border transactions, harmonization of finance and dispute resolution systems, closer economic and legal integrations among cooperating economies, and the simplification of procedures involved in international transactions. Through its constructive engagement with APEC, as testified by the various statements by the APEC minister and economic leaders, HCCH has gained a strong foothold and effectively raised its visibility in the Asia-Pacific regions. We are very pleased to learn that over the past few years, there has been a steady increase in the number of HCCH members and contracting parties from Asia-Pacific. In particular, we are excited to note the latest developments in relation to the Apostle Convention in the Asia-Pacific. The Apostle Convention is one of the instruments featured in several APEC workshops in collaboration with HCCH, and these workshops were so successful that the 2013 APEC Joint Ministerial Statement acknowledged that APEC-wide adoption of the Hague Apostle Convention will facilitate APEC's ease of doing business targets in the area of trading across borders and advance institutional connectivity among APEC authorities, and hence encourage wider participations in the Hague Apostille Conventions. Since then, many APEC members have become parties to the Apostille Conventions, namely, Chile acceded to the convention in 2015, the Philippines acceded to the convention in 2018, Singapore and Indonesia acceded to the convention in 2021, and for Indonesia, it's also the first HCCH instruments that it has joined. China and Canada just acceded to the convention this year, which will soon come into force from them. And WOAP continues to engage several APEC members concerning their possible accessions to the Apostille Conventions. The above example on the Apostille Convention clearly illustrates the importance of capacity building initiatives to facilitate the process of considering and implementing the relevant HCCH instruments for strengthening economic legal infrastructure and enhancing ease of doing business, some of the core areas of structural reform promoted by the Economic Committee. Therefore, it's of no surprise that the APEC economic leaders in their 2014 declarations recognized the role of internationally recognized private international law instruments, such as the Hague Conventions, and encouraged wider use of these instruments, which would contribute to APEC's regional integrations, connectivity, and structural reform agenda. Throughout this Asia-Pacific Week, we will hear more from distinguished speakers about the many benefits brought by the various HCCH instruments to our interconnected world. Lastly, I would like to mention the recently launched APEC Collaborative Framework for Online Dispute Resolutions of Cross-Border Business-to-Business Disputes, which is designed to help businesses, especially micro, small, and medium enterprises, to resolve cross-border commercial disputes. We thank WOAP's active contributions to the relevant work, including its participation in various APEC meetings and activities from time to time. APEC will continue to benefit from the participation of HCCH in our meetings and capacity building work. On this note, I wish to thank HCCH again for its invaluable contributions for developing various HCCH instruments, which can bridge different legal systems in the Asia-Pacific regions, and also for the outstanding capacity building work in this region. I must also congratulate HCCH again for coming to Hong Kong to commence its global celebration of the 130th anniversary. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. James Dane. Please return to your seat on the stage. Thank you very much for enlightening speech. So, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Mr. Dennis Tsai. So please come to the podium. The stage is yours, please.
Secretary General Dr. Bernasconi, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Dennis Tsai. I'm from ALCO Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center. First of all, on behalf of my director, Mr. Nick Chen, MHJP, and our ALCO Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center, I would like to convey our heartfelt and warmest congratulations to the HCC's 130th anniversary and the successful organization of this very impressive and dynamic conference. So I have secondly, I'm very proud and pleased to be here, and I'm thrilled to present together with our excellent panel member who are my teachers and actually work colleagues in many areas, because 20 years ago, I was a student in Professor Zhao's class learning WTO law, and of course, getting familiar with the HCCH at that time. So that's very new to me as when I was a student. So it's I'm very much privileged to stand here to present together with our panel member. Of course, Dr. James Dane, we work together on the APEC ODR framework things. So it is so exciting. And I think today's theme is very well chosen. Access to justice is very fundamental in all, among all legal practitioners in our community, and also sustainable development as well. And I also noticed that our topic for our section is called Key Conventions and regional views or regional perspective. I think, first of all, I believe all conventions of HCC are key. But I'm regret that I don't have the such knowledgeable as our other panel member to comment on all the key conventions. And my experience are quite limited, and what I can contribute is to share my limited observation and perhaps views on some arbitration-related convention. So I picked the HCC principle on choice of law of international commercial contract, which helps a lot in arbitration matters, in particular for helping arbitrator or parties on matter of conflict of law, because that's a very interesting convention, and it provides excellent guideline to parties involved in arbitration, and also help arbitrator to handle this matter, and also guiding arbitration center or arbitration institution in formulating its institutional rules for arbitration. And one of the fundamental common grounds for arbitration center is party autonomy. This is a very fundamental principle. And the HCCH principle also promote this party's autonomy. They respect parties' choice in terms of the substantive law in governing the contract. So this is very important. And in most of the cases, parties may not agree on the applicable substantive law in arbitration and the contract. Because in my experience, there are maybe many laws applicable to one arbitration. It could be a law for the arbitrator to decide on the merit and liability of the parties. So this could be one law. And the other law could be a law governing the arbitration agreement itself. It could be separated or different law. And also law governing the arbitration procedure, or the procedural matter, which is the procedural law. So there are so many different laws can be agreed by the parties for different parts or different matters of a contract or a dispute. So I really appreciate the guidelines set out by the HCC principle on the choice of law in international commercial contract. In particular, the Article 2, which is of the HCC principle, mentioned that the parties may choose the law applicable to the whole contract or to only part of it. So it's a separation principle in terms of the choice of law, and also different laws for different parts of the contract. So this is a very important guideline provided by the principle. And because in our model clause, ELCO, Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center, in our model clause, we have already guided the parties to agree on the law applicable to the agreement's validity, and the law applicable to the arbitration procedural matters. So this is two laws can be different or can be the same, of course. ELCO, Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center, we promote Hong Kong law as this kind of procedural matter for governing. And consistent with the HCC principle, the parties are free to opt for other applicable law for substantive matter, like for the arbitrator to decide on the merit or liability of the parties. So this is one of the one example that I would like to share. And furthermore, I would like to also share our Article 35.1 of the ELCO Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center platform arbitration rules, which provides that if there is no agreement in terms of the between the party in terms of the applicable substantive law, the arbitral tribunal shall apply the rules of law designated by the party as applicable to the substance of the dispute. Failing such designation by the parties, the arbitral tribunal shall apply the law which it deems to be appropriate. So that means that arbitral tribunal have to respect the parties' agreement in terms of the choice of law. If the arbitral tribunal fail to respect the parties' option or agreement in terms of applicable law, and that might be cause a very serious outcome, which is may lead to the awards not enforceable, which is maybe treated as procedural irregularity. So that's a very important thing that the arbitral tribunal should take note in terms of that. So in concluding my very short remarks, I would like to highlight that HCC principle affirms the principle of party autonomy and plays an important role in guiding arbitral tribunal and arbitral institution on matters of conflict of law. And of course, our ELCO Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center's platform arbitration rule consists with HCC principles. And our center, ELCO Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center, will promote the use of the HCCH principle in our future activities. So that will be very much useful to the arbitral community, not only from Asia Pacific, but from the whole world. We believe that the parties to dispute and arbitration institution and other stakeholders in the arbitration community will benefit from the HCC principle and other key conventions as well. So here comes the end of my presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Dennis Tai, for sharing your valuable insights with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, now lastly, we have Dr. Jin Sun to share the views with us. Please come to the podium.
His Excellency Secretary General Dr. Bernasconi, and my fellow panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to speak at the HCCH Asia Pacific Week 2023 and to celebrate the 130th anniversary of the HCCH. In the past 130 years, the Hague Conference contributed significantly to the progressive unification of private international law by finding multilaterally agreed approaches in a wide range of areas. The international conventions adopted by the Hague Conference are perfect examples of global public goods that are able to bridge different legal systems and facilitate the ever-growing transnational activities. I was privileged enough to witness the spirit and the vision of the Hague Conference in the past 20 years. In particular, through my capacity as the chief negotiator of Chinese delegation in the 2005 Choice Court Agreement Convention and also the 2019 Judgment Convention. The successful story of these two conventions represents the joint efforts of all member states of the conference and highlights the leading role an international organization may play in forming new international rules in the common goods of all states and its people in this age of globalization. Ladies and gentlemen, we now live in an interconnected world where no state or jurisdiction stands alone or can stand alone. In this increasingly connected world, with rapid mobility, multiplying cross-border transactional and globalization generally, disputes and conflicts are inevitable. The key question is how these disputes and conflicts can be resolved peacefully and effectively. That's why HCCH has worked in the area of jurisdiction and judgment for so many years. While litigation and arbitration are no doubt the most common form of dispute settlement mechanisms, mediation has become a widely used method of conflict resolution, both locally and
internationally. Even in the 1996 Hague Child Protection Convention, there is an article concerning mediation. Comparing to other forms of dispute settlement mechanism, mediation is a flexible and consensual technique which is especially useful at the times when a solution is needed, which the parties still hope to keep the outcome in control, thus avoiding breaking down the relations. Apart from confidentiality, parties can change the win or lose mindset to win-win cooperation and come up with creative solutions while the relations and long-term interests can remain intact. Despite the global trend and the rising demand for mediation, currently there is no intergovernmental body that is dedicated to mediation. The existing international dispute settlement organizations, many take mediation as a supplemental measure to litigation or arbitration procedures. In response to the development momentum of and the demand for mediation, China, joined by many like-minded states, concluded the joint statement on the future establishment of the International Organization for Mediation in 2022, agreeing to jointly establishing the International Organization for Mediation, the IOMED, with the aim of providing dedicated mediation service as well as friendly, flexible, cost-effective, and convenient solutions to various international disputes. The joint statement laid down common understandings on the key elements of the IOMED, which provide a solid starting point for the preparatory work of the establishment of the IOMED. The International Organization for Mediation is unique in the sense that it will be the first intergovernmental organization dedicated to resolve international disputes through mediation. It will act as a useful complement to the existing international judicial and arbitral organizations by providing a new option for peaceful settlement of international disputes enshrined in the UN Charter. It will also be a global public good for rule of law that can strengthen the global governance system and enhance the participation and representation of the developing countries in the dispute resolution area. According to the joint statement, the IOMED will undertake the following functions. A, to promote the use of mediation in dispute resolution, to develop the culture of mediation, and to explore and promote best practices of mediation. B, to promote the use of mediation in dispute resolution. C, to organize international, regional, national, and local forums and conferences on mediation, building a platform for communication, capacity building, and information sharing. D, to cooperate and communicate with other international organizations and dispute resolution agencies. Ladies and gentlemen, creating an international organization from the ground up is not an easy task, and it requires synergy from parties and stakeholders who are committed to working together toward the common goal. Following the conclusion of the joint statement, the preparatory office of the IOMED was set up in Hong Kong in February this year. Pursuant to the local legislation, the preparatory office enjoys judicial personality and the legal capacity required to exercise its functions. The preparatory office, pursuant to the joint statement, has been entrusted with a broad mandate to facilitate the completion of the elaboration of the Convention on the establishment of the International Organization for Mediation, including but not limited to A, to coordinate and organize formal elaboration on the IOMED Convention and other related issues. B, to prepare and present the draft IOMED Convention and the related instruments for elaboration. And C, to promote the concept of IOMED. To set things in motion, the preparatory office successfully organized the first session of the elaboration of the IOMED Convention within 3 months after its establishment. The first session was attended by governments that have signed, supported, or endorsed the joint statement, which have already represented more than 2 billion people across the globe. And we believe there will be more countries joining in this process. The second session of the elaboration of the convention will be held in Hong Kong soon. We are confident that with the support and the cooperation of the participating countries, the goal set out in the joint statement to complete the elaboration of the convention within 2 years will be successfully achieved. Ladies and gentlemen, compared to the remarkable contributions and achievements of the Hague Conference, we know IOMED has high expectations to meet and yet a long way to go, maybe to run. But with a will to building a more harmonized and sustainable world, the IOMED will strive to promote the greater use of mediation in resolving international disputes amicably, efficiently, and effectively. On this note, may I wish the HCCH Asia Pacific Week very success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sun. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big hand to all of the wonderful speakers of the panel. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your great speeches. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for your great insight for sharing with us. Please return to your seat. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Your contributions have added immense value to our discussion. Thank you very much for this great discussion. And ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats as we move on to the next session of the conference, the announcement of the statement. 女士们、先生，我们接下来呢要进行的是宣读声明的环节。我们将要有请几位嘉宾共同登台。Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's have our guests come on stage. Please let's welcome Mr. Fang Jianming, Deputy Commissioner Office of the Commissioner Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China in Hong Kong SAR. 中华人民共和国外交部驻香港特别行政区特派员公署副特派员方建明先生，欢迎登台见证。请就座。And also, let's welcome Professor Jardine Go-Escola, Deputy Secretary General of the Hague Conference on Private International Law. Please come to the stage and have a seat. Dr. James Ding, Chair of the APAC Economic Committee, Law Officer, International Law of the Department of Justice of the Hong Kong SAR. Please join the stage. Professor Zhao Yun, representative of the HCCH, ROAP, Associate Dean of the Faculty of Law of the University of Hong Kong. Please join the stage. Okay, let's also welcome Mr. Ng Cheng, Department Head of the International and Interregional Law Department of the Legal Affairs Bureau of the Government of Macau SAR. Welcome to the stage. So please have a seat as we witness this great moment of announcement. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Christophe Bernasconi, Secretary General of the Hague Conference on Private International Law, to do the statement announcement, please.
Thank you very much, moderator, and thank you indeed for your wonderful work this afternoon. So it gives me now pleasure to read out to you a statement that will serve as memory, I guess, of what we have been and will continue to be discussing in the coming 4 days. On the occasion of HCCH Asia Pacific Week, Hong Kong 2023, jointly organized by the government of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, SAR, People's Republic of China, the Faculty of Law of the University of Hong Kong, and the Permanent Bureau of the Hague Conference on Private International Law, HCCH. Celebrating the 130th anniversary of the HCCH and recalling its mandate to work for the progressive unification of the rules of private international law. Welcoming the recent entry into force of the Convention of 2nd of July 2019 on the recognition and enforcement of foreign judgments in civil or commercial matters, the 2019 HCCH Judgments Convention, on the 1st of September 2023. Emphasizing the interconnectedness of societies and the need to provide legal certainty and predictability for individuals, families, and businesses involved in cross-border situations. Understanding that robust legal frameworks and effective access to justice contribute to legal certainty in international transactions and dispute resolution, efficiencies in business, trade, and investment, protection of weaker parties, and increased entrepreneurship and innovation. Recognizing the increasing digitization of societies, the inherently cross-border nature of digital technologies, and the networks that they create, as well as the new challenges arising from digitization that will require solutions provided by the unification of rules of private international law. Underlining the importance of strengthening international cooperation bilaterally, regionally, and globally. Recognizing that HCCH conventions offer effective multilateral solutions to private international law challenges, with proven international standards that are widely accepted, respect diversity of legal traditions, and complement global human rights instruments. We, the participants of HCCH Asia Pacific Week Hong Kong 23, do hereby recognize the ever-increasing practical importance of the work of the HCCH, and that the implementation and operation of HCCH conventions and instruments contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2030. Encourage all states, including those in the Asia and the Pacific region, to join the HCCH as members and to consider becoming party to HCCH conventions and instruments, including the 2019 HCCH Judgments Convention. Undertake to promote the visibility of the HCCH and its work in the areas of international family and child protection law, transnational litigation and apostille, as well as international commercial, digital, and financial law. Encourage states to work towards enhancing technological understanding and capabilities in order to facilitate the development and operation of relevant legal frameworks and to identify gaps that may be resolved through HCCH conventions and instruments. Commend the People's Republic of China, especially the government of the Hong Kong SAR and the University of Hong Kong, for their generous support in hosting HCCH Asia Pacific Week Hong Kong 2023. Invite other states in Asia and the Pacific to consider hosting HCCH Asia Pacific Week 2024. And that takes us to the end of that statement, which we just associate to us comprehensively here as a group of participants. But let me just take a few seconds, really, to show how beneficial these meetings can be and these gatherings can be. I have listened carefully to all the presentations we have heard, and I would like to thank all the speakers who took the floor and addressed us this afternoon. But there are immediate takeaways for further cooperation And I think that is really the essence of you know, all our collective efforts to try and bring these collective efforts to the next level, to make sure that a wider group of states, people, companies can benefit from this work. James Ding was kindly referring to our APEC efforts, and I was delighted to contribute these efforts in the past, but through you and your network, indeed, a lot has happened in Asia Pacific, and we will continue on that path and join our forces and make sure that more benefits come out of it. I was delighted to hear about the progress that Law Asia is making. I have to admit, I was not aware that their scope of activities was so large, so broad. And again, we can see a lot of potential synergies there to be developed, and I would be delighted to pick this up. And then, my dear friend Sun Jin, where are you? Yeah, sorry, I couldn't see you. First of all, lovely to see you again after this time. And again, I learned from you of this IOMED organization in development. I didn't know that it was progressing so well. And you kindly refer to mediation efforts in relation to various HCCH conventions. Immediately, again, we can see a lot of potential for synergies, for cooperation, for joining forces, for bringing all this expertise together so that, again, a larger group of people, and maybe in the case of mediation, vulnerable people, but also businesses can profit and benefit from this joint expertise. So I really hope that this statement is not just a reflection of what we are trying to achieve, but that it will serve as an active encouragement to all of us to continue our efforts and to join our forces. And on that, thank you, Emma.
Thank you very much. Thank you for making this very important announcement. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's take this moment to take a photo together, right? Please step outside of the table and get in front of the table. 好，我们接下来呢要进行一个非常有纪念意义的合影的环节，请大家来到舞台的前方。All right, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations on the statement. Let's give a big hand to the successful announcement of the statement. Thank you very much. 我们看向舞台前方，一起把这一刻共同的定格，让我们露出微笑，合影留念。Okay, let's smile to the camera and remember this great moment of being together. Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Thank you again for joining us. Please. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. 谢谢，非常感谢。All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, at the first day of the conference comes to an close, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for being here with us today. On behalf of the HCCH, the Department of Justice of the Hong Kong SAR, and the Faculty of Law of the University of Hong Kong, we truly appreciate your attendance. So we have arranged a very delightful welcome reception for all of you downstairs on the first floor. The reception will start at 5 p.m. The reception will start very soon at 5 p.m., giving you the opportunity to unwind, network, and enjoy each other's company. Please take a moment to ensure that you have all your belongings with you, and of course, the welcome bag provided to you. So please take it. And we kindly remind the guests applying for Law Society CPD points to sign the list at the reception to make sure your points are recorded. Thank you very much. Also, for the guests attending tomorrow's conference, please remember to bring your lanyard with you. Please don't forget to bring your lanyard with you. This will greatly help us ensure a smooth start to the day. And to our guest speakers, we have arranged a coach to transport you back to the Hotel 181. The coach will depart at 7 p.m. right after the welcome reception. So our students ambassadors holding the event poster will escort you to the boarding point. So should you require any assistance on campus or need information about Hong Kong in general, please do not hesitate to approach to our dedicated student ambassadors. They're very helpful. And once again, thank you so much for your participation today, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great time in Hong Kong. And cheers to a wonderful night ahead of us. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.